Marvel trying to please both sides instead of taking accountability for allowing a mass production of really dumb, incel, like ignorant fans to hold space inside of this community is the reason why discourse about Marvel movies happen like this. And it's also a reason as to why they were placed in this really shaken up space of some movies being hits and some movies being misses.
The problem with the MCU post-Endgame stems from two areas. One, they are trying to rush it, and two, they don't deal with the incel. I'm going to briefly touch on the former before I get into the latter. Endgame was great. The question after that was, what do we do next? They had gotten rid of their main cast, and now they were at the drawing board again. But then you had all these different things that literally hit them while they were at the drawing board. The pandemic, the death of Chadwick Boseman, the launch of Disney+, the transition of power between one Bob to the other Bob. There were too many moving pieces at one time that caused the production team to have to shuffle around all the different changes. And it kept them from being able to sit down and actually have a roadmap. Honestly, think about the first 10 years. When it comes to phase one, they had pretty much who they were going to introduce, what characters they're going to work with, and they knew they wanted to get to the Avengers. Then you get to phase two, and at that point, they have a full schedule being released of how many movies they're going to have come out, what those movies are going to do, who are the directors, who are the actors, and everybody involved and how it's going to lead into the overall story. They had time to truly hammer out their roadmap. But then 2020 happened. And even though the projects that started coming out when the pandemic started lightening up in terms of us all having to be at home, they were already announced, there still wasn't the opportunity to really sit down and hammer out these productions in a room together to have a clear direction forward. Joker mentions that Falcon and the Winter Soldier is kind of where the discourse really started taking a turn. I would disagree. I honestly believe it started back at Endgame. The amount of people I had to argue with that were upset that the shield was passed over to Sam instead of Bucky, when in the comics it went to Bucky first, it was ridiculous. You can clearly tell how the MCU set it up. Sam was always supposed to be the successor. Joker also mentioned that so many people who had valid critiques of these movies started shutting up. I liked the Eternals, and because I did, I actually started reading the comics when Kieran Gillen started writing for them. And because I started reading their comics, the valid critique that the MCU Eternals are not the comic book Eternals is a valid critique. But instead, you have people complaining and talking about the Eternals went woke, and then with the Marvels, it's a great time. I will die on this hill that Iman Vellani needs to be protected at all costs. And if President Trump actually gets his way and Canada becomes the 51st state, then she is a national treasure. But then you have people complaining that a basically all-female cast was quote-unquote a woke Marvel movie. Put in perspective for me, I've been reading comics consistently since February 16, 2018. Bonus points for anybody who actually knows what that date is without looking it up. And even before that, I tried to collect certain events like Avengers vs. X-Men and the original Spider-Verse saga when they were going against the Inheritors. So this argument about comics or Disney or whatever making these characters quote-unquote woke makes no sense. If you actually read these comics, if you actually look at what they stand for, if you actually watch how these characters navigate into their world, there is not a single freaking popular character that you could compare to being any of the lovely neo-Nazis that are showing up out of nowhere. This is a disgusting issue that Disney has just largely in general when it comes to their BIPOC and their women. We had the same discussion for Kelly Marie Tran when she did Star Wars, then Halle Bailey when she did Little Mermaid, and now Julia Garner for the Fantastic Four. We also know that Black Widow was rushed to be put out on Disney+, and then they tried to cut Scarlett Johansson out of her check. And then for the stuff that goes straight to streaming, there's barely any advertisement for great movies such as Turning Red. But then they go ahead and pull the crap that, oh, we're going to be Robert Downey Jr. back and the Russo brothers to write out the Avengers movies and he'll play Doom. Really? In all honesty, I actually really like the fact that Russo brothers came back because the Russo brothers are great writers. Robert being Doom, but they act like that's going to fix the issue with the fact that these movies aren't bringing in as much money as they used to. No, the issue is these people keep opening their mouths when they shouldn't be. I get it. Most of us are in America where we live under the guise that we can say whatever we want because it's free speech. And I believe there is some level of the fact that Disney can't police its fans. But make those losers who want to talk crap pay the money. Critic culture is big enough now in the age of social media that we know exactly what people are going to use those dog whistle terms. And the fact that Disney keeps allowing them to see these movies for free to then talk crap, make them pay the money to run their mouths. The whole point of having the critics have these embargo agreements to go see the movie early so they can get their reviews up and out on time, so that way people have the ability to get that word of mouth out there. It makes no sense to keep hiring the same people who only do dog whistle reviews. And then, frankly, when the discourse is loud enough that people are just saying a bunch of crap, Disney needs to come out and say something about that. Because it makes no sense that you think that the money you're paying this actor or actress is just enough for you to stay silent. Credit where credit is due. I believe Rick Riordan said something for the actress who plays Annabeth. But again, that was Rick, the original writer of the book series, and not Disney themselves. Honestly, maybe we hold these companies to too high of a standard. But our dollars still speak. Just look at what Cap just did this past weekend, $100 million at the box office. And you would definitely have those people who would try to downplay the fact that it made $100 million. I even saw one article that said it did $100 million in a 4-day weekend, not a 3-day weekend. Does it matter? Why are we trying to downplay the accomplishments of a black man who is leading a movie? 100 million is still 100 million. Shut up. Especially when the overall budget was 380 million. It's already almost there. But what do y'all think? Let me know in the comments. As always, I am Upcoming Author. Thank you for getting caught up with me on my favorite media. God saying the same. I will get caught up with y'all later. Love y'all. Peace.